Hey, it's Tangie from Dallas here. Hope that everyone's doing well today. And so I have been waiting for this interview ever since I knew that I could have access to the man that you see on the screen. So I want to just, before I go off into this, understand most of you know my whole life is music. I was raised in a very musically inclined family. I love all genres of music. And it wasn't until I dibbled and dabbled with house music, but I did not know it was house music until I moved to, and I'm sorry for the idiot that's on the road right here with his car, with his motorcycle. But anyway, I digress. Living in Dallas, when I would go to some of the gay clubs that I would frequent, Sue Ellen's, the Village Station, shout out to the Village Station, shout out to Sue Ellen's, yes. And so when I was there, I would hear this music, but it was foreign to me, and we kind of attributed it to like Vogue music or whatever. But when I moved to New York, that's when I really got tapped in, or moved to New Jersey, really got tapped into that thing. So let me tell you about my guest today, which is the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, DJ Disciple. Straight up.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me tell them, I have to take this time to give DJ Disciple a proper introduction by sharing this information with you. DJ Disciple is a master of blending soaring melodies with catchy beats. He brings life to every party. Hailing from the creative hotbed of Brooklyn, New York, Disciple turned his passion for music into a lifelong career as a DJ, radio host, producer, and label mogul. He has been producing and spinning house music for over 30 years, and he continues to push boundaries in the electronic music scene today. As a pioneer of electronic music, Disciple led the way for the modern era of DJs. The highlights of Disciple's career includes his hit single On the Dance Floor, which peaked at number 67 on the UK singles chart in 1994, and his Grammy-nominated track Caught Up, which earned the #1 spot on the US Billboard in 2002, the US Billboard Hot Dance Club play chart in 2002. Now, Disciple grew up around musical influences and captivated by the music industry and fueled by his Christian faith. Disciple became a gospel DJ. He stayed true to his religious roots, empowered by the reminder that only what you will do for Christ will last. A lover of many genres, Disciple developed a deep appreciation for the music underground scene. He's also penning a book right now, The Beat, The Scene, The Sound. It is insane that I have him on my show today. I just want to say, what's up, DJ Disciple?
What's up, Tangie from Dallas? We got history in Dallas. You know that, right?
Of course. Expand.
Let us do that. So there is a club in Dallas, Texas on Main Street. And the name of that club is Club One. And my friend, DJ Red Eye, had me play there in 2001 and said, you know what? You need to have a residency here. And for about a year to 2 years, there was two clubs in Dallas, Texas that was influential. One was Club 7, and the other one was Club One. Now, his name is DJ Scotty Canfield, DJ Red Eye. That's his name, DJ Red Eye.
I got that.
Right, so Red Eye and my friend DeMarcus Lewis, who does remixes for me, they both do residencies at this club called It'll Do in Dallas, Texas, and they bring the biggest DJs in the world to that club today.
Wow.
But DJ Red Eye got his start at Club One in Dallas, Texas, and I was one of his residents that he brought over.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
That history.
So we are definitely connected in that aspect. Even though I live in the DMV, my heart will always be Dallas, right?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. And shout out to all of them. I bet you they'll be excited to see that story.
You never forget.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's so many places I want to go in this interview, but I think the first thing that I want to really start off with is just from the beginning, just your life as a child, growing up in Brooklyn, surrounded by all of this creative energy, which is the primary reason why I uprooted my life and went east, because it just called out to me. I'm a big personality. I'm a very free-spirited queer woman, and it just made sense for me to go east. And so you growing up in this, and I always love to hear the stories of people who grew up in New York City. Right. Because I've always fantasized about living there, and I finally got a chance to be a part of this. Tell me about growing up growing up in this time and all this energy around you, which propelled you into this next stage.
Well, I live in Farragut housing in New York, in Brooklyn, New York, where I've always lived. And right now I'm the sole provider of my daughter. She stays with me. I'm a dad girl.
Right.
I'm a girl dad.
Yeah, girl dad.
So 100%, I take care of everything that she needs for now. And when I grew up, when I was born in the music. Basically, my brothers were already musicians when I came to this earth from my mother and father. And so there is a lot of irony that's pertaining to the book that describes something that I wrote with Henry Kroc, that we have a great culture in Farragut. One of the first DJs to mix records, his name is Grandmaster Flowers. And from him, he was like one of the pioneers of the mobile DJ movement. Then you have Kenny Carpenter, Strafe, a man that made Set It Off, DJ Debonair. And so I learned from the toolage from both a man named Big Bob, who worked with Grandmaster Flowers, and DJ Debonair. So I got, which is also in the book, it shows how I was able to go through life, and I found great culture in my community, but I also found God in my community. And I was in certain movements. The irony of those movements was when my mother had me in the family, my mother, she really wasn't down with me going to church. She was kind of against it in a sense, because she had a situation where her mother was cast out of the house by a pastor at 14 years old. And so very early on, I knew what it was to be rejected by someone from the faith. And so I was able to see through early on, just to be accepting of all people and helping other people in their path as well. And so it's been one of those roads that I traveled, that I've seen and I witnessed growing up. But I still went to church and I got saved. And, my mother was like really all about, okay, show me more than you can tell me. And so she was more about, don't talk about it, be about it.
Be about it.
And so what she really meant was like, show that love, give that love. So, my dad made some decisions when I was in high school, coming into college. Long story short, my brother, Stanley Banks, he's the bass player for George Benson. And George Benson is a 10-time Grammy Award winner.
My man.
Long story short, my brother Larry was a studio musician as well. And Larry wrote for Uptown Records, which was MCA. And one of the artists that he wrote was Mary J. Blige.
Right.
But Uptown broke the contract with Larry to work with him. And then he decided, you know what, I'm going to just give my life to the Lord. And he sold out for the Lord. And he just stayed on a path of just playing organ at the Church of the Open Door. What winds up happening is that through my DJ career, my musical career, I turned up learning how to play the drums. And I play the drums for the Greater Refuge Temple. My dad says, okay, you need to learn about accounting at Baruch College. Didn't know anything too much about accounting. Ran into a good friend of mine, Ralph Davis. His name was Cool D. He did a radio show, WBMB. That parlayed me into wanting to do my own show and inspired me to do my own show, which was gospel music. Fast forward, I'm doing gospel. Another person that joined the station, his name was DJ Jazz. he introduces me to house music. This is like 85, 86. So during that time, I'm discovering house music and finding out that this music is morally neutral. It doesn't belittle women. There's not a lot of cursing around there, but I understand that the culture is nuanced with some lustful flavors. So inevitably, I go down this path of loving house music. In 1988, I wanted to be on a real radio show. So Terrence O'Driscoll, the program director, was like, you know what? We want you to do radio here. Long story short, so I said, yeah, I would love to do it, but they don't want no religious programming. So I made a decision to do house music on the radio.
Huh?
And that decision helped spearhead the college movement, because a lot of the college kids that were going to Baruch at that time also went to the Paradise Garage.
Huh?
And I didn't really know too much history about the Paradise Garage outside of what DJ Jazz told me. So fast forward, and I go to Hunter College and I do a radio show there as well. Those college kids, they love my music. So I start doing the college events and I'm on the radio. So the garage closes and one of the guys from the college, he's a Sigma, he's like, look, we love the way you play, but we want you to play at our parties, but you got to play like Larry Levan. So I go see Larry Levan at Studio 54. What winds up happening is they give me that tryout at Hunter College, and I pass with flying colors.
Of course.
Inevitably, my first club that I do is Studio 54 with those same college kids.
It would be.
Because those colleges that I was playing for outgrew. And so Studio 54 wasn't the place that it once was. So things go from there. Then I get a call from Greg Day. No, not Greg Day. I meet with a guy named DJ Camacho. DJ Camacho, I meet at a place called Space because my friend Sabrina Vasquez was telling me about him. And I parlay that into him getting me booked to play at Wild Pitch. I do my first Wild Pitch party at the Choice. I mean, at the World. I go down later on. Sabrina tells me about another place, which is the Choice, which was a place that used to be residency where David Mancuso was doing at the Loft. And the first few weeks, I'm out alternating with Larry Levan at the Garage.
That's crazy.
So it's one of those stories wherein one layer goes into the next. And then on top of that, you know, once I start playing the Choice and I have success there, more underground opportunities come. Now, the book is going to outlay those kind of steps in my person, but the view is much more broader than the book.
Agreed.
Me and Henry Payne. So going along now, we realized that the clubs are starting to close because of the violence in the streets. So, you know, I get a venture to play in New Jersey. The first club I play at is Club 280. And we start, because Tony Humphreys was a DJ at Zanzibar, he leaves to go do a residency in London. He goes to England. I come back, you know, I come to Jersey. Next thing you know, I'm hitting it off really, really well in New Jersey. And they say, hey, why don't you give it a shot at Zanzibar? So I play Zanzibar. Things don't go according to plan, but I do get a lesson from two DJs. One is Naeem Johnson. The other one is Jazzy B. We move forward, and so I learned my lesson from going to Jersey, but I also understand that New York City is a dangerous place. And this is where we get to David Dinkins and Giuliani, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I get a reset button, I understand that there was a deeper calling for me. And that calling was to travel. Now, there's three phases that I understood. Like, I was on the radio, I was in the clubs, but one thing that I wasn't doing was I wasn't in the studio. And so Bobby Davis from Shore Record Pool puts me in this position. And I met him at a place called the Underground Network Party at the Sound Factory Bar. where I meet JP Furman. So I understand that, people get laid off of jobs. They get, let go of jobs for whatever reason. But very early on, I had transition counselors, people that he helped me to reinvent myself. Okay. And that means having an emotional mindset, to get your tools ready when the time comes, and look at the market and find out what it says about you. You got to cherry pick the skills that you're great at when you lose your job, and you build your resume, right? And so, I think that we in a market right now that where people are losing their jobs to tech companies and so forth. People have lost it. They trying to find out where they can go in, So there's a lot of reassessing that people do when they lose their jobs. There's a lot of reflections. And then there's some people that reinvent, and there's some people that find a repurpose in their life. There's another purpose that they want. They may not want to be. They say, you know what? I learned from my mistake. Maybe this is not the industry for me. Or they say, you know what? I have a gift. I'm going to use it to the fullest potential because I know it's going to take me as far as I want it to go. Mm-hmm. Right? So you got to use whatever those opportunities is to enhance the gift that you have. And so Bobby Davis and JP Furman, and later on, a woman named Kim Benjamin, who was my manager, saw that in me, right? Because they saw all the networking I do, all the planning, who do you know? You know what I'm saying? Can the people that you work with trust them? Or, can you build trust? You know what I'm saying? And so the radio, the clubs, and the studio gave that to me. So when Giuliani comes in, right? Because this is one of the questions that I know that you wanted to, ask.
Right.
He demonizes nightlife, right? Because he wants to make things safe for the tourists and the co-op owners, because in the 70s, a lot of people, left New York City, right? Because of fires. We had people from the Caribbean coming over to New York, replacing the people that had left, right? But in the meantime, the nightlife was the one thing that was pumping money
into the economy,
the excitement into the city, right? So, but then the thing is with Giuliani, it's like, okay, we have a great nightlife, but who wants to go to nightclubs when there's police raids? You know what I'm saying? And so when Giuliani came in, he had a model like he wanted to be tough on crime. Mm-hmm. And drugs were everywhere at the time. You had crack, you got cocaine, everybody was doing drugs, but he attacked the clubs because it was an easy target.
I see.
So in that process, New York lost a lot of its mega clubs, a lot of its big clubs. We lost it because we going through the war on drugs, the AIDS epidemic, the crackdown on raves, you know what I'm saying? The zero tolerance policing, the quality of life improvements, so it made life harder and harder for DJs, you know what I'm saying? And so, when he creates these cabaret laws, these were laws created during the Jim Crow era, right, to stop Black and white people from dancing together, right? And so what Giuliani used, he used a method with the cabaret license to say, okay, if you don't have a cabaret license, you got to shut your doors.
Wow.
Okay? Right? So it was, that cabaret law. And so he's using this law, right, that people don't even want to fight, right? And so he goes about shutting clubs down, right? He's shutting down clubs that don't fit his models for what the city should be. Okay? So suddenly, like, there's fewer and fewer nightclubs to play out throughout the week. And so that did two things. A lot of clubs started becoming mobile. They started moving from place to place. And then a lot of the DJs started looking outside of the city for work, right? And so what we found out in the UK, when I went over there, is that the UK clubs, instead of vilifying those clubs, they knew that the value of the scene had, and they knew that it brought income and that they were paying taxes. You know what I'm saying? And they would just root out all the bad players, but out of respect for the business that was going on, they understood the culture and they valued it, because someone can love you but not value you.
Agreed.
They can appreciate you but not value you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So through that, the UK and Europe not only kept house music alive, but it helped enhance the innovations to the genre. And then when it returned back to us, it came back in the form of funky house and EDM, all these other things, right? They giving it back to us, what we influenced to them, right? So a couple of things happened during the Giuliani era came. The economics changed. So what happens is I'm on the road constantly, right? We cut to 1998, and I'm one of the first DJ to play at the first bottle service club in New York called Spy Bar. Because Spy Bar, which was open in Soho, it was a counterbalance. Because in the book, we talk about the Limelight and the Club Kids series, right? But through Giuliani's restrictions, it kind of put a hamper on the thing, you know what I'm saying? So it was no longer cool to be a club kid. So people started opting to deal with, you know, the bottle service. And at that same time, while Giuliani's cleaning up this crime and making the city what it is, the appeal was for the people to no longer to be like that bridge and tunnel scene. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to come in. They didn't want to just come in to work and go to the clubs just for the weekend. They wanted to actually live here. So it became more desirable. And so what you see is the start of a hyper development, right? Because the city's starting to open up to regular people that want to come in, right? And that changes things for the people, you know. And so what happens when he comes in? So, you know, Giuliani, there's no more peep shows. Everything is cleaned up. Now we get Mayor Bloomberg, and he starts like the 311 hotline being, you know, created for noise complaints. So you have these venues, right? And, you know, you got a choice. Which one you want? The club that made all these cultural contributions, or the building across the street that's the luxury high rises? And you know, and so the local community boards in those areas were controlling that situation, okay? And they were becoming powerful because they're denying the dancing licenses for the hotspots. So if we don't want you in the club, we're kicking you out of here. And the community can vote you out. So it could be a dedicated landmark, right? But the cost of living in New York comes up, right? That luxury high rise has now more valuable than that cultural space that you have, right? So the landlord got to make the decision. Do you keep the culture that helped you in the 70s, 80s, 90s? Or do you raise the price? So a lot of people gentrified and bought out, right? And so here's the thing, the number of things happened. We had raves. They put the Rave Act on the books, right? Because it can weaponize any place. And it says, listen, if you're working as a club bar back or DJ or a host, you're liable for anybody that does drugs in your club. So what's not put in the book, Tangie, is the simple fact that, listen, you know, there were police officers that I knew in my story that, you know, they became police officers. One of them was like, well, you know, we know that you DJ in New York City. You know, we trying to do this buy and bust situation. So they wanted to come into undercover, right? Come in as a friend, introduce somebody, and then help them with the bust. Then you got the person that's actually from the hood. They in my area. They want to be where I'm at so they can sell the drugs. The promoter, sometimes I'm the only Black guy that's a token guy that's DJing. The tourists is coming up to me where they can get some drugs.
Right. What a crossroads to be in.
Right? So you're dealing with those kind of things that's, you know, and so you got to, as a DJ, these are some of the things that you got to navigate, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, as the 2000s go on, there's an accessibility for the culture and the art form. And that's when MP3s and laptop DJs come, you know, they come into play. And so if you're looking at DJing today, it's more difficult because back then, you know, you had a small room or medium room and you could grow your following. It was more organic back then. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, festivals was a big part of things that were going on in Europe, but New Yorkers and people here was kind of hesitant because you got to think about those festivals after the Woodstock reunion, right? Like nobody's going to give you insurance after a big festival like that really went bad. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be expensive, and that raised the bar. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So most people that had a current state of mind to build things for the club sensation, the club movement, they had to be business minded. They had to be corporate minded. They need to know how to capitalize. You know what I'm saying? So the festivals overseas, they grew. And it happened because the talents that were here left here and went to Europe. And they was putting out records, releasing records in Europe, you know, that would become successful. Hence the reason I was able to get early success in the UK with On the Dance Floor and UK Garage, things like that. So I was able to get that because we were helping to influence new styles. And new styles were also influencing us. Just as much as we had a hand in what they were doing, they had a hand in what we were doing too, right? And so in New York, you know, we had to have a sound that could be festival worthy, that was investment worthy, because the big business model of music, it started shifting and, you know, corporalizing music, you know what I'm saying? The corporate club versus the grassroots organic, you know, the DIY scene, as we like. Right. And so, you know, so part of that corporate scene is like, let's try to build these clubs in the hotels, because we didn't have the mega clubs, but there was banging parties at the hotels. And there's money based on a business model, right? Because now we're doing brand recognition. You know what I'm saying? If you love great music, why not stay at LeBain? Why not? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, the A-Loft. I love the A-Loft in Houston because
what winds up happening is, if you want to do a party and it's a big scale, a lot of the parties during and after the bottle service scene, I would say during it, you know, they were pushed to industrial places like in Williamsburg and Brooklyn, right? Because there was some zoning issues, right? There were stipulations with cabarets and stuff like that. So, you know, and then even with those zoning places, they didn't want them there either, because, you know, they think they're gonna lose their space, or the value would go up, the appeal, and, you know, everybody's afraid of gentrification, right? And so you think that you're living in the neighborhood because you could live in that space, and, you know, that real estate is more affordable. But then when that club comes in, you've got to deal with the history of the name and what that means to the appeal, because, you know, what Giuliani did, he kind of gave a black eye to the, you know, to the club game, right? And so, but we have to understand these spaces and understand the growth and development and the value of what these artists bring, right? Because we know that in the past, they've grown into healthy things, right? So I'm traveling around the world at this point. I'm traveling, but I'm still doing New York bottle service scene. Once 1998 scene hits, it's in my book that I play a number of variety of clubs in New York. I never stopped working until the pandemic hit. I was kind of working every week, and that kind of goes into that. And so what winds up happening is, one of the things that Mayor de Blasio does, like in 2018, there's a woman named Ariel Palitz. She was appointed like the director. It was placed a thing called New York City's Office of Nightlife, right? It's at the mayor's office, right? And that was instituted by Mayor de Blasio. And he wanted to stop the strains between like the club owners and the New York City nightlife, because they understood, like de Blasio understood, like nightlife is a $35 billion business, right? It supports hundreds of thousands of jobs, right? It creates millions of dollars in tax revenues, right? And so, you know, he doesn't want to treat that as an adversary. He's different from what Giuliani's trying to do. And so, you know, they're creating this office so that it could have a safe environment, a viable environment, a well-managed, you know, and he supports the nightlife contributions. And so Eric Adams continues that, right? And so this is why the book is titled The Beat, the Scene, the Sound, The Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of House Music in New York City. because of the mayor's willingness to like accept nightlife, we have now a whole legion of clubs. Now, the kind of opposite has happened in the UK, because the UK had we were in the age of the super clubs, because when we went over there, we played in clubs in Europe that were way bigger than what was going on in New York. But now, particularly in England, because of Brexit, their money fell down, right? They didn't have the same economy. And then on top of that, you know, the Russian-Ukrainian war affected their energy prices. So now they have clubs closing down every week, right? And now their clubs have been gentrified, even though there was a willingness for law enforcement and clubs to work together. Because of the energy crisis and because of the Brexit, they kind of fall. So what winds up happening is I start doing my parties. I said, you know what? Because I had gone through doing a phase of doing clubs in New York City, traveling, doing the EDM scene, and doing festivals. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to come back to, you know, at the behest of E-Man and DJ Camacho, I said, I'm going to come back and I want to play for the dancers that used to dance for me at the Wild Pitch and mobile parties that I used to do. And so I wound up doing that. And then long story short, I started doing my own parties. One was Feel Real. The other one was Release. And the first one was Next Level. And so all three of those parties, I was able to do a lot of community service. We did something called DJs Against Hunger, where we feed DJs. DJs would come together, feed to do an event for the homeless, and then every Thanksgiving we would go feed the homeless on Thanksgiving. We did stuff for like Hurricane Katrina, you know, outlets like that. And I've been able to do the King and Me series, where we could actually teach young DJs how to play. And myself, and you know, when I was doing Feel Real, I worked with a woman named Becky Nunez, who was inspirational and influential in helping me do these parties. And we always implemented women in whatever we did, whatever I did in my career. I always implemented women who had the skills to DJ. So in this book, you'll find a number of women that have been also contributors to our dance music culture, and which is an important fact, you know? So that was our first question.
And you answered just about my whole everything. I'm like, I don't even need my
I want to keep going forward, but I want to stop and take a breath.
I tell you, I mean, you just kind of laid everything out. Like I have a list of questions here and I'm thinking in my mind, just check that out. But that's great. So now I want to pivot because now I don't even need these. And so, like I said, I really don't even need these because you just pretty much answered everything. So now I want to just kind of pivot. I am a fan, and maybe I'm a late bloomer to the music pulse in Europe. I could say some 10, 15 years ago is when I discovered that in Europe, they really get down. I mean, really jam out and get down. My favorite station that plays on my Google Mini all day long is Amsterdam Funk Channel. The other station that I play is Nostalgie Funk out of France.
Right.
Those are my two top #1 stations that I listen to all the time around the clock here. And so what I do know from the bit that I know about house music is that I didn't understand until you laid it out to me how it really started there, because I hear a lot of the influence coming. Richard Earnshaw is one of my favorites. You know, that's my boy, Richard Earnshaw. And so I was wondering how it got over there. You kind of laid that out for me. So you were saying that basically it's because of the restrictions that were placed upon you guys during that time. Is that it kind of migrated over into Europe and they, you know, kind of handled it from there?
Yeah, because there was a great number of American DJs that influenced European counterparts, but we were also influenced by them as well.
Agreed.
It kind of worked both ways because we also saw an opportunity because American DJs was making more money than they could ever make in their homeland. Mm-hmm. But what came with that also was that experience and that camaraderie that DJs kind of have with each other. Mm-hmm. And not all camaraderies are the same. But every 4 years, you see a shift in the music, you see a shift in the musical culture, you
Mhm.
see a shift in the people. So what was hot for me in the 90s and 2000s, you know, if I take my top 10 clubs, we have Marquee, Lavelle, Somewhere Nowhere, that plays kind of like EDM. You have Musica, Gospel, Nebula, Super Ingredients, LeBain, Tao, Chelsea Music Hall. That's just in Manhattan. That's not
Mhm.
including Brooklyn. Brooklyn got Silo, we got Knockdown Center, Good Room, Nowadays, Public Records, House of Yes, Elsewhere. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And so what does that tell us? That yes, there has been a rise of house music, but then house music has changed
Agreed.
because and house music has changed in the sense that for the people that's, I guess, in their 40s and 50s in New York, they've kind of embraced their house music and they've embraced it to the South African style of house music with the black coffee, the black motion. They've embraced that style of house music, while the scene now is very much obviously EDM tech, and everybody's kind of built their own space to kind of do their own thing. So there's still room through the festivals to explore each other's genres and what we like to do and so forth. There's still room for that. And it's good and it's healthy that we have like Miami Music Week and Amsterdam Dance Event and things like that. I think it's very, very healthy. And I think that the contributors, there's space for, the one thing I love about house music, that there's no ageism. So if you're
Right.
a late bloomer, you could party with people older than you
Right.
and you still get it in
And
because they understand that the music is a healer
it
and it
is.
helps to bring people together. And so, you know, obviously the restrictions that we had in New York were unfortunate, but then obviously we developing and helping to rise, hopefully new talent that will come in and make things happen for the better.
One of the things that I love the most about house music was discovering the differences. And for me, there is a line of there's a delineation and a difference between this EDM tech and then house as I know it, which was my favorite is soulful house,
Right.
deep house. Those are my two, right
Right.
off the rip. And I feel like that those two, even though there's several, that those two, I feel like that the radio stations, because I used to work for Sirius, right?
Right.
And so they have the EDM stations, and I'm like, I was trying to push my way through while I had the time there so that I could get in a place and say, guys, there's a whole other section of this that y'all are missing out on. And I'm like, and I've had people tell me, if they would just, play Frankie Knuckles, if they would just, run Miguel Mills, if they would run Lisa Shaw, all these other folks, I would subscribe, but they weren't hearing that. And I think that a lot of platforms, that run and stream music, they just have this EDM and this tech, and I'm like, y'all got to pivot and expand.
Right. So I can explain that whole theory to you.
Please.
So in the book, what we talk about is like at first, Black radio in New York started playing house music. They play it during the day, 12 noon mix, and they play it late at night. But daytime programming is the meat and bones of how a record can become successful.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that's not successful because it needs to have major label backing, right? And so because of the amount of records that are coming out, every week there's 20 to 30,000 records coming out. And so you can't really develop artists when that amount of product is coming out. So that's why you have to have a filter to say, okay, this month, this is going to be the best of what we have, and we can promote this on the radio. But if everything is coming at you at one time, you kind of neutral to it and ambivalent to it. I think that us as Black people, we just started getting to like house music because of the internet. The internet has opened up people to you know, and you got to understand, while house music has gotten more interesting, Black R&B has kind of faded.
Agreed.
Right? Black
Agreed.
music, because the Black music departments are not what they used to be when you go to these labels.
Agreed.
And as a result, you know, we seeing like a saturation of certain artists, but you can't name me 5 Black male R&B artists that are doing anything chart wise.
Right.
And so a lot of the older DJs are saying, oh, well, I can't keep staying in the 2000s with this old school R&B. And so a lot of the older people in New York are opting to do house music. On the other side of it, you have an international mindset that says, you know what, we are embracing the new deep house. And you have a Claptone, and you have other artists that, you know, that's more cyclical for the kids that like their generation of music. Okay. It's just that, you know, between the South African house, the tech house, the EDM, it's all over the place if you would look on the outside looking in. But there's room for you to still love what you love, because radio doesn't have as the value that it used to have. Agreed. But nothing is like the way it used to be. And that goes back to Cyrus Radio. Because just because someone stopped you from the model of what you were doing and the vision that you have for what you had at Sirius doesn't mean that the model can stop. There might be another plan for you to build a new model, but it's really about how strong your network system is. And a person can be gifted, they can have talent, and they can have vision, but they have to be willing. Agreed. They have to be willing. Being willing is one of the most important things. The right mentality is all about saying, I'm gonna get up this morning and I'm gonna network and I'm gonna find out, who do I know that I feel that can help me, that can put me in a position to succeed? You have to reassess. And as an artist, development, it could happen for anybody. It can. But realistically speaking, when it comes to the music, you know, people are always going to have their opinions of why house music is where it's at and what it's done and so forth. I make my own contributions my own way. I've kind of retired from touring, obviously, because as I told you before, I'm a full-time girl dad, and some things can't wait. And I appreciate the fact that I could sacrifice my time to raise my daughter and do what's right for her, so that she doesn't see somebody that's not unfocused. That I'm focused on my music, but you know, once you in love with the music, sometimes you could be married to it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You could be married to the studio. You can marry. It's about what you're giving your time to. That is true. And so, yeah, so what you give your time to is going to be the reflection of who you are. So I needed to separate that for the love that I have for my daughter, so that I can try to raise her in the best way I can as a man. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you just really gave, you know, myself and others who went through this very heavy layoff a really good gem about reassessing. And, you know, I look at this as the opportunity as of the great redo, the great do-over. Right. None of us were expecting it. Many of us had put, you know, great years and hard work into it. But I can tell you that since this has happened to me, it caused me to stand back and realize just how much of my energy and my ideas and my creativity I was using to build everybody else's dream but my own. And I would say that Henry Kronk is the person that helped me with my dream, because I was a journalist. I knew how to put, but Henry really helped me with certain steps to know how to formulate and do things. And without him, I wouldn't, you know, there's not many DJs that can say that they co-authored or authored a book. But as much as it is, you know, my story, it's also Henry's artistry in helping me with the story. And so I appreciate him because he's helped me do these bars, do the plans of, okay, we telling a story, but I was all over the place because I did so much it's hard to put it in 200 pages. So
Right.
we have to just work with what we know our strong points is to tell a story. And hopefully it'll be an inspiration, because every DJ has a story, just like every doctor has a story, just like anybody never. And for me, writing a book is another way to reinvent my career. It's another way to say, I want to make sure that this book is in every library that talks about our heroes that have never been really spoken about before, but that talks about us as a community. That even though it's my journey, I have these people that are in it, and these are also the heroes in my story. So it's not all about me, the journey. The journey is about the scene and everybody that helped in it. And that's why it's important to me.
Well, Michael, I'm so excited about the book, and I want to ask you, Henry, he's decorated himself, all in his own right. From winning that Peterson Memorial Prize for one of his projects.
Right.
He's got the podcast that's going. He, worked for the Burlington Free Press. He has some very incredible accolades,
Yes,
just to his own name. And I'm interested even more now that I'm connected to you guys in this way, to learn his journey as a journalist. So with that being said, being able to partner with Henry Kronk and trying to condense all of this energy that you have, and this knowledge that you have, and this insight that most of us could only dream to have experienced. How was that relationship with you and Henry in developing this book that is going to come out and blow our minds? The Beat the Sound.
Well,
the
I
sound.
drove Henry crazy. Crazy. Because I always wanted to be like, no, we're going to do this. It's going to be factual. We appreciate the talents that we bring, but the stories that I've been able to come up with and helping me with the writing is something that, like I said, never been told before. It all flows. One is connected to each other. Now, there's some missing pieces in it, because there's been, I'm sure there's some mistakes that people may have, but they know the spirit of how it's written and to what point it prevails. I think that a lot of people don't document Larry Levan enough. Frankie Knuckles' way, he's a treasure, but obviously he came up through the ranks in New York. And the book displays that. The Chicago, New York. One thing I didn't really put in the book is my Canadian connection or my Dallas, Texas connection. And I didn't really put Texas in the book, but I'm always appreciative. Like if I get another story in me, I have to talk about Dallas because Mark Farina's from there. Like Boo Williams from Chicago is from there. Like legitimate house music heroes are from Dallas, Texas. And they're from, I cover the Northwest, like I cover Seattle and San Francisco and LA, but there are other places where house music has thrived in their pockets in the North that have made just as much as the impact. Michelangelo Matos has, he wrote a book a few years ago. And so there's more contributors coming around, Tim Lawrence, his book, and more dance music books are being written. And I think it's so important because we're in $1 billion industry.
Agreed.
But yet when I go to the bookstores, you don't see nothing there about house music, about dance music, about techno. And I think that it needs to be implemented even in our school systems because, there's more to a story than, well, this person got high or this person did. No, we made real musical innovations in the studios. Right now, in the festival scene, Miami Music Weeks, we saw Eric Prydz do an amazing hologram at the festival. Kerry Chandler does holograms. So DJing is like, DJs are seen as entertainers now, where you see a David Guetta and they'll play, people will come just to hear their favorite tunes from you. That's how big the artistry's gone. And you can still have an intimate atmosphere like my man DJ S at the Woo Lounge, who could play for like 50, 60, 70 people, but because of the way and the energy, the way people dance, makes the party just as fulfilling as if you played for 20,000 people with their hands up. It's
Right.
kind of have that same spirit.
Right. Well, I can tell you, I think what you have on your hands is just not a single book. It's going to be at least a trilogy. It has to be. You've got too much information. So I'm going to go ahead and speak that into your life right now. And then I can easily see this morphing into film, because you explain it. I mean, I'm listening to you talk and I'm seeing the imagery in my mind, and I'm like, it's mind blowing. So as we wrap up this interview, tell us, when can we expect the book? Tell us how folks can get it, how they can pre-order, whatever, because I know I'm about to do mine ASAP.
So June 15th, the book is released. We are doing a showcasing, a launch at the New York Public Library on June the 23rd, and on June 24th, we will be at Newark Library. So I'm taking it to the biggest chain of the New York Public Library. I'm taking it over there. I'll have it out sometime as well for Soul Summit, for Juwandi on the 17th, for Juneteenth. Gonna bring it up to Harlem. June 10th to the 24th, I'll be in the UK promoting the book. So I'm gonna try to hit all the Midlands, Bristol, Leeds, Manchester, London, to promote the book out there in England, and then do as many book fairs in New York as I can. But the most important thing is to try to see if I can get this book into most libraries where people can appreciate and actually have a book about dance music in their libraries, so high school and college students can talk about some history about one person's journey dealing with house music, about the rise, fall, and rebirth of house music.
I want to see what I can do to help to get those books in the library. So I'll be doing some research.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good for me to probably go to Dallas and have a book signing at some point, because it's important that the club culture supports each other. I know I'm going to try to go to some regional places as well to do some placements where I can do a signing if people are interested to see what the buzz is. But the more promotion that we all give, because this talks about a great part of our history. Some of the reflections on it, people will see and they'll have their own opinions of it. But for the most part, I think that people will enjoy and appreciate the fact that, Louis Vega has wrote the foreword, Roger Sanchez and Armand Van Helden, all of the stars from the 90s and 2000s have endorsed this book. And that goes into reassessing yourself and knowing the value of what you do, that when you're no longer working at a job, you could do something else and plant a seed in yourself and find something else and say, you know what? I'm going to repurpose myself for a minute, and maybe not DJ at all the big festivals in the club, but I'm going to repurpose myself to do something else that nobody else is doing.
Agreed.
But still make an impact.
Agreed. How can we follow you so we'll know where you're going to be, so we can tell other folks, okay, the Disciple's going to be, is there any social media?
Yeah, my Instagram is DJ Disciple NYC, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I DJ at a bakery. I DJ at Martha's Country Bakery.
Martha's Country Bakery. We're going to put it on the map.
So here's the thing, because it's like people come, and it's not a dancing space. It's a place where you sit down, you have cakes and stuff like that. Because I DJ more in the restaurant industry now. I don't really do the nightclubs and stuff like that, because I'm raising my daughter, I'm writing a book, I'm putting out music, and I'm just allocating myself. I think I'll go back to clubs inevitably, but for right now, I think it's healthy for me, while I'm doing what I'm supposed to do for my daughter, to do these steps to kind of bring that consistency in,
Look, I just was in a grocery store the other day and asked the lady, are you guys hiring? Because in my mindset, after going through what I just went through with this layoff, I don't think I want corporate anymore. It'd have to be a great offer or a great opportunity for me to consider corporate right now in this space right now for me. And I'm doing that. I'm in that reassessment phase. I'm redirecting. I'm trying to figure out where's the best place to put my energy, where it will be received and be celebrated, right? And where I can grow. And I get it. Just like you're not working the club scenes, you found your heart in a bakery. And as long as you are good with it here and it satisfies and keep what that keeps you to center and keep everything in balance, then you keep doing what you need to do. We
Right.
are going to find the address for Martha's Country Bakery and put it out there. And so people know where you're at and come
Yeah,
and
it's
have
263 Bedford Avenue. But here's the other thing too.
yeah.
Here's what happened with the tech industry. Like, say for instance, in the tech industry, there was a supply crunch, basically, right?
Right.
The reason why a lot of people got let go of these industries was because the consumers stopped buying, right? They stopped wanting to be, accounts are going up. Meanwhile, inflation is kicked in. So what winds up happening is the startups start struggling, right? And so you have those issues, and they say, okay, we'll take the more established people and cut them off first, right? And that's what happened in some of these places where they still taking the most talented people, but the people that got the most, the most on the resume, maybe they moved them, you know what I'm saying? Some of them. And then there's AI, like I think for Amazon, they had AI to see how productive your work was
Yeah.
for them to keip you on, right?
Yeah.
So you have those kind of things that you hear through the pipeline. And so, when you repurpose, you might want to reinvent yourself in another way. And this podcast may help you, but you might, like you said, you might want to repurpose and do something else. And you can still do something else within something that you love, because there's a lot of ways I could still find fulfillment doing music without having to DJ for 5,000 people and have my fist in the air playing the latest jam. Much as I love to do it, I know that nothing lasts forever. And some people have to just embrace that, hey, you know what? I've done this and it's run its course.
Right.
And I don't see no way, or there hasn't been a way made for me to go forward. Maybe I need to pull back and look at something else. Or maybe what I have, if I push through and network the right way, maybe there's another channel where I can go where I know I'm purposed at.
You have inspired me today. I want to thank you. I can't wait to go back and edit this because I get to watch it all over again.
I know I could talk a lot. I know.
I love it. Oh, this won't be the last time. Trust and believe, because I'm going to be thinking about questions. I'm like, I'm going to need to bring him on again. But I thank you for spending time with me today and with everyone today, DJ Disciple. And just we look forward to supporting you, supporting the book. Again, it's the beat, the scene, the sound, chock full with just all of this great experience and these journeys and these travels that you guys colorfully, illustrated, you and Henry Kronk. I'm excited. God bless you. I speak prosperity. I speak well-being, everything with your efforts here forward.
Thank you. God bless
you. All right. To everyone else out there, thank you for joining. I hope that you enjoyed. I will have links so we can keep up with DJ Disciple and keep up with this book. Y'all get ready to get this book. You've got to get it. It's going to be incredible. Everyone have a great day and later, Gators.
Peace.